Some people don't struggle because they make bad decisions. They struggle because no decision ever feels complete. No matter what they choose, a relationship, a career path, a city, a friendship, a version of themselves, a strange feeling follows them. Not regret, not exactly, something harder to explain. A lingering suspicion that another version of life might have been better. And for some people, this feeling becomes so normal that they stop noticing it. They think they're indecisive, overthinkers, commitment phobic, difficult. But underneath all of that is often something much darker. Because sometimes the problem isn't the choice. It's what the mind learned to fear long before the choice ever existed. There are people who can make a decision and move forward. Then there are people who make a decision and immediately begin mourning every possibility they didn't choose. Quietly. Without anyone noticing. And if that sounds familiar, this investigation may feel uncomfortably personal. Because the psychology of never feeling settled after any choice is rarely about the future. It's usually about survival. Years ago, there was someone who seemed incapable of enjoying anything they worked so hard to get. A new relationship, excitement for a few weeks, then anxiety, a new job, relief for a few days, then doubt, a new apartment, a fresh start, until they began imagining all the reasons they should have chosen somewhere else. From the outside, it looked like chronic dissatisfaction. From the inside, it felt like emotional vertigo, like standing in one place while mentally living in 100 alternatives. Every decision created two realities, the one they lived, and the one they couldn't stop imagining. Eventually, they started asking themselves a disturbing question. Why does every choice feel wrong after I make it? The answer wasn't what they expected. Because people who never feel settled are often searching for certainty. And certainty doesn't exist. Especially not in modern life. Modern culture teaches people to believe that somewhere out there is the perfect option. The perfect partner. The perfect career. The perfect identity. The perfect city. The perfect version of themselves. Dating apps reinforce it. Social media reinforces it. Algorithms reinforce it. Every swipe, every recommendation, every success story, every highlight reel. The message remains the same. There is always something better, just beyond your current reach. And eventually the mind becomes conditioned to treat commitment as risk. Because commitment means closing doors. And closing doors feels dangerous when you've been trained to believe your happiness is hiding behind one of them. So people stay psychologically half-invested in their own lives. Present physically, absent mentally, always checking, always comparing, always wondering, what if? That question becomes a prison. Because what if never ends? There is always another possibility, another person, another opportunity, another version of reality. The modern world doesn't reward emotional settlement. It rewards perpetual optimization. And optimization is addictive because it disguises anxiety as self-improvement. It sounds productive. It feels intelligent. But underneath it is often fear. Fear of loss. Fear of limitation. Fear of being trapped inside the wrong life. Yet something even deeper is happening. Many people who never feel settled after making choices didn't learn this behavior from technology. Technology simply amplified it. The roots often begin much earlier. In childhood. In environments where emotional safety felt conditional, where mistakes felt expensive, where criticism arrived faster than reassurance. where getting things wrong seemed to carry consequences that felt overwhelming. Children adapt to that. They become scanners, observers, hypervigilant thinkers. They learn to search for danger before danger appears. That skill helps them survive until adulthood, because eventually the threat disappears. But the scanning remains. Now every choice becomes a potential threat, not because it actually is, but because their nervous system learned that mistakes must be prevented at all costs. So they analyze, research, compare, overthink, reconsider, reevaluate, then make a choice, and immediately begin scanning for evidence that it was the wrong one, without realizing it. Their mind isn't searching for satisfaction. It's searching for danger, and danger can always be found. That changes everything, because the unsettled feeling doesn't appear after the decision. It was there before the decision was even made. The choice simply gave it somewhere to attach itself. This is why some people can achieve everything they once wanted and still feel uncertain. The uncertainty was never created by circumstances. It was created by conditioning. The mind learned that peace comes after perfect decisions. But perfect decisions don't exist. Only real ones. And reality contains uncertainty. Always. Yet modern culture treats uncertainty like a problem to solve. People now spend hours researching restaurants, days researching purchases, months researching life decisions, years researching themselves, not because information creates clarity, but because information creates the illusion of control, and control feels safer than uncertainty, at least temporarily. Then comes the hidden consequence. The more options people have, the less attached they become to the options they choose. Because attachment requires acceptance, and acceptance requires letting alternatives die. That's the part nobody talks about. Every decision contains grief. Every choice kills possibilities. Every commitment abandons alternate futures. Most people don't consciously recognize this, but they feel it. A relationship means giving up countless hypothetical relationships. A career means giving up countless hypothetical careers. Even becoming a certain version of yourself means abandoning others. And for people who already struggle with uncertainty, that grief feels unbearable. So they avoid fully settling. They keep part of themselves emotionally available for the lives they didn't choose. Just in case. Just enough to keep imagining. Just enough to never fully arrive. And this creates a strange contradiction. They fear missing out. But their fear of missing out prevents them from fully experiencing what they already have. They become emotionally divided, living two lives simultaneously, the real one and the imagined one. The imagined one always wins, because imagined lives never contain consequences, only possibilities. Reality contains flaws. Fantasy contains perfection. That comparison is impossible to win, which is why some people spend years feeling disappointed by lives that were never actually disappointing. The disappointment comes from comparing reality to fiction, not reality to reality. And nowhere is this more obvious than in relationships. Some people leave perfectly healthy relationships not because something is wrong, but because uncertainty whispers that something better might exist. Others stay in relationships while secretly evaluating alternatives. Not because they're cruel, because they've become addicted to keeping escape routes emotionally available. The modern world calls this keeping options open, but psychologically it often reflects something else. an inability to feel safe inside permanence. Because permanence requires trust. Not trust in the choice. Trust in yourself. Trust that even if life becomes imperfect, you can survive it. That realization is terrifying, because people who never feel settled often believe certainty creates peace. But certainty was never the solution. The search for certainty is often the problem. The more they chase it, the further peace moves away, like a horizon. Always visible, never reachable, and eventually a darker realization appears. Some people aren't suffering because they chose incorrectly. They're suffering because they've spent years treating every decision like a final verdict on their worth. As if one wrong move could permanently ruin everything. As if life is a single irreversible test. As if happiness belongs only to people who make flawless decisions. But life doesn't work that way. Most fulfilled people are not people who found perfect choices. They're people who stopped demanding perfection from choices. There is a difference. A massive one. Because emotional settlement doesn't happen when uncertainty disappears. It happens when uncertainty stops feeling like an emergency. And for many people, that may be the most uncomfortable truth of all. The life they've been chasing isn't hiding behind a different decision. It isn't waiting behind another swipe, another relationship, another city, another identity, another future. The thing they've actually been searching for is permission. Permission to stop monitoring every possible alternative. Permission to stop auditing their entire existence. Permission to stop asking whether they chose correctly. And finally ask a different question. A more dangerous one. What if the choice was never the thing keeping me unsettled? What if it was the belief that I could only be at peace after making the perfect one? Because the darkest part of this psychology is not that people fear making the wrong choice. It's that they spend years postponing peace until certainty arrives. And certainty never comes. So peace gets postponed too. Year after year. Choice after choice. Life after life. Until one day they realize something devastating. The perfect decision never existed. Only the life they were too busy questioning to fully live.